You know what, Sam?
What?
I hope everyone had a great Christmas.
Yes, we hope everyone had a great Christmas. Yep. Sam, Christmas is now in the past. Again, like what Sam said, we hope everyone had a great Christmas, happy holidays.
Yep.
Now we're looking forward toward the new year of 2025.
Yes, time for the new year. I will be in the great state of Florida. I will be attending the first game of the calendar new year in Sunrise, Carolina versus the Florida Panthers.
Yes. We might be doing something special for that. We might not, but we will let you guys know. Again, if you want to stay in the loop, the best thing is to follow us on our social medias.
Yep.
Instagram, X, Blue Sky. Even though TikTok is probably not going to stay on in the US. If you follow us there, that's fine too. Whatever. So Sam, what
You
we're going to
gotta
be
add
doing?
the you gotta add the blue sky logo to the bottom thing there.
I just realized that actually, but I recently did Blue Sky. So, if you are listening to us and have not followed us on Blue Sky, and if of course you have an account, follow us on Blue Sky.
Yes.
Yeah, we already have quite a few followers on Blue Sky, actually already, Sam. So,
Awesome.
yep, definitely a good spectrum there over on Blue Sky. So, for this episode, it's going to be a little bit different. We're not going to be covering news just because it's Christmas break. We're going to take a pause on the news thing and then come back um, on on Monday with a new slate of news.
And you won't
Because
have me.
yeah, you most likely will not have Sam. So with the last episode, funny thing, they didn't really get any news either, Sam. We kind of did a fun Christmas thing. Um,
Yep.
but for this episode, we're going to be looking at the standings, and in fact, probably what we'll be doing, not every week, but probably maybe at least once a month, or probably maybe in February, especially with the NHL taking 2 weeks off every once in a while we'll probably be looking at the standings and that'll take place of our news segments because I
Yep.
think it's good to look at the standings, Sam,
Yep.
see where the Hurricanes are at compared to other teams.
Yep.
So as usual, we have a link for donations. If you feel like you want to donate, there's a link to that in both our YouTube and our traditional podcast descriptions in the episodes. And also another thing too is toward the end of this month, but we're going to be having another ticket giveaway. Well, actually, not this month, but in the month of January. My bad.
Yes. Yes.
So be on the lookout for that. So, Sam, let's look at the standings here. We're going to start in the Western Conference. And so what we're doing is we're looking at the wild card.
Okay.
And just looking at it, obviously you have Chicago dead last, 26 points. Sam, I would say probably that a little bit shocks me considering they have been in rebuild mode for quite some time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how they rebuilded, because they did trade away some young guys too. One guy that comes to mind is Kirby Doc to
Yeah.
Montreal. It was kind of like this is a clean slate for Chicago. So it's definitely going to take them some time to get back into playoff contention. But right now they're still in dead last. And then you have San Jose that is at the bottom as well, next to Chicago at 28 points. Sam, no shock with these teams, I don't think. Maybe a little with Chicago, but not much considering both San Jose and Chicago are kind of still in that rebuilding stage. Would you agree about that, Sam?
Yeah, I don't think Chicago is quite there yet. I think their defense is what needs to be worked on the most. Uh, I think their goaltending's fine. You have Mrazek, he's fine. We did it with Mrazek, so Canes fans know he's capable. But yeah, I think Chicago is really they lack the defensive ability, but they have great offense. Like yeah, the Bedard, Hall, Foligno,
Teravainen.
Teravainen. So they have a good core forward group. Uh, they have a couple of good defensemen, but they're not their blue line is definitely not ready to go.
And I would say the same thing with San Jose too, Sam. They have a good forward core. I mean, we played them recently. Again, a lot of potential with their forward core. Probably not at the potential yet, but they will get there with Will Smith, Macklin Celebrini. But on the defense, you don't really have a lot of guys there. I mean, you have Mario Ferraro, that's a good defenseman, but even then, he's probably not someone that should play in your top two. So
I mean, they'll keep getting better. They'll get some free agent signings. They have a lot of cap space. Chicago's in a good position. They're not in a good position standings wise this year, but they're not in a bad. They're not in a horrible position. They're going to just keep getting better.
yes,
I
and
know. I think they fired their coach recently, but he wasn't the reason they weren't good. The roster's just not there yet.
I was talking about San Jose.
Oh no, I would just I meant I was
Oh,
just finishing up Chicago.
oh, sorry. Okay, I was on San Jose, but I mean, I agree with you on Chicago. Obviously, with firing their head coach, but San Jose, like I said, Sam, I think they're kind of in a similar position. Good on the forward group, amazing potential there, but on the back end, they probably need to work on that a little bit.
Yeah, and they even have a goalie of the future in Yaroslav Askarov. So they're San Jose also in a good position in the rebuild. They have a good head coach in Ryan Rosofsky, former Checkers head coach.
Yep.
I think also Chicago Wolves. Think he did both before he went on to coach the Sharks. And I think he's a solid coach, solid team. They're going to get better. They've had some good games, I think, of late. Let's see, what's their record recently? Their last 10 hasn't been as good as I thought. They're 2-7-1, but they're not too bad at home. They're 6-9-1. They're a little bit under 500, but they're winning at home. And we'll just have to wait and see what the Sharks do. They have a couple of veteran guys. Wouldn't be shocked that they get traded away for prospects and picks at the deadline, but you'll see what happens. They're getting younger players and they're getting solid players. Their best acquisition so far this year is obviously Askarov. That puts them in a great spot for goaltending for years to come.
Yes, it definitely does. And Sam, another team too that I see here at the eighth position in the wild card race is a team that we recently just played against. We will recap that game, but it's Nashville. Shockingly, they have 29 points in 35 games. But I mean, I agree with what Adam said. I mean, you look at that record and like look at the look at the roster on paper, it doesn't equate to where they are in the standings because they have a
Yeah.
great roster.
You want to talk about a team that can do what the Hurricanes and the St. Louis Blues did in 2019? It's this team. It's the
Yes.
Predators. They are that good of a team. They are just that good of a team. I honestly, I expect them to make the playoffs. Like I do. I think they're that good. I think the Nashville Predators that we saw how they played, that is the Nashville Predators. That is their game. That is their team. That is their capability. And I expect them to just keep getting better. When you have so many new faces, when you look at Marchessault, Stamkos, Brady Shea, I mean, it's a lot of new guys playing on a team. Sometimes it takes some time. And if there's just now starting to gel, just watch out. This team could go and win 10 straight, and I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, I agree, but they've dug themselves into a hole, Sam. And if you look at the standings, I mean, they're at 29 points, and the wild card cutoff line in terms of points is Dallas, which we'll get to with 40 points. So they have to first climb out of that, which is going
Like
to
I
be
said,
difficult.
I wouldn't be surprised if Nashville rattled off 10 straight, though. Like, I think they're that good. I think they're that capable. You have a goalie who can steal you some games, and you have a forward group who can score, and you have a solid core that's led by Roman defense is led by Roman Yossi and Brady Shea. So you have a good defense, good offense, and good goaltending. This Nashville team, if they'll figure it out. I've been saying all year that they'd figure it out, and I'm standing by it.
Yeah, well, I think the question is, it's not can they, it's will they
They
get
will
it.
figure it out.
So we'll see.
I'm confident
Again,
they'll figure it out.
they're in the hole, so we'll see how that does. Obviously, Edmonton was in the hole last year, but you could
Yeah.
argue they had the best player in Connor McDavid in the NHL. But we'll
Well,
see.
the
We'll see how
Hurricanes were
that
in a hole
happens.
too, so again, you're right. We'll see. I think they can do it.
Yes, and then you have Anaheim at 30 points, and Sam. Honestly, I thought they'd be a little bit lower,
Yeah.
but I would say what they're doing, I think, is a bit of a mild success. I say mild success just because I think fans expected them to be a little bit lower. But you have good offense there in Leo Carlson,
Yeah.
and you have Troy
Zegras.
Terry, Zegras. Now they traded Cam Fowler, obviously, but it seems like he kind of wanted to be traded. But I mean, this is a team that
And they
has
got Jacob
also good.
Truba.
Yeah, they have Truba. On the goaltending front, I would say they're very set with Lucas
Yeah.
Dostal.
Yeah, they're
So
fine. They're again, this is another team that's going to be pretty solid in a couple years. They got Truba because they would get pushed around a lot, and they wanted someone there to protect their young guys, and that's what Truba's going to do. He's going to come in and protect their young players. So we'll just have to wait and see kind of what happens with the Ducks, but uh, where they are right now, they're 8 points out of a no. I'm sorry, they're 10 points out of a playoff spot. I
gonna
mean,
be hard. It's just gonna be hard for
they're
them. I
not
just can't see it.
capable of making it, but they're in the hunt. That's where you want to be, right? You don't want to be where some other teams are, like Chicago. At least the Ducks are in the hunt for a playoff spot. Will they make it? No, but their games are entertaining and they're not losing all of the time. They're only 3 games below 500. That's better than I think anyone thought they'd be this year.
Yes, I agree. And Sam, it seems like we're starting to get to the point to where we're getting into the teams that are kind of, I would say, in the mushy middle, where they're not probably bad enough to get a very good draft pick, but not good enough to where they
Yeah.
might not make the playoffs. To me, that's Seattle, St. Louis, Utah, Calgary. Now, there are a couple teams I see on here, probably maybe just one. I think you could argue maybe two that where both teams could make the playoffs. And to me, that is Utah. And I would say probably, I mean,
I think
St. Louis could, but I just don't think they will.
Look, I think I don't really have a lot to say about the Kraken other than I've never really believed in them, and a lot of that may be bias against Ron Francis, and I just don't think he's built a good team there. You have a couple of young players, but you've got St. Louis, Utah, and Calgary. I think all three of those teams could make the playoffs. What would you need for that to happen? I think you need LA or Dallas to fall off. And Dallas has not been excellent late. They're 500, they're 5-5-0 in their last 10. So Dallas is falling and Vancouver has the locker room concerns right now. So St. Louis, Utah, Calgary could replace either of those. Vancouver, Dallas, and LA, I think, are the three vulnerable playoff teams right now. Colorado will make it. Minnesota's a hell of a hockey team. They'll make it. Winnipeg's been the best team in the NHL, I think, this year. You've got Vegas, who's always a top team in the league. I don't think they're as good this year, even though they are number one in their division. I think they're not. I don't think the roster is as good. They lost a solid player in March or so. I think that matters. Edmonton, you've McDavid. Again, I think really when you look at the West Central, it's Winnipeg, Minnesota, Colorado. I think that is set. I don't expect that to change. And then in the Pacific, it's Vegas, Edmonton, and I think LA, Vancouver, and Dallas are the vulnerable teams where St. Louis, Utah, or Calgary could replace those teams.
Yes. But I mean, I remember you said you just don't have confidence in Seattle. I don't have confidence in Seattle, not because of Ron Francis, but mainly just because they don't have a star player. They just don't. They have lots of very good players, I would argue. Because Matthew Beniers, I think, is a very good player. But is he like a franchise player? No, I don't think he is. I mean, you have Vince Dunn, you you got in Brandon Montour, Jaden Schwartz, Chandler Stevenson. I mean, these are really good players, but there's just no star talent. So we'll see how Seattle goes. You obviously have St. Louis, where I would say a lot of the same things what I said about Seattle are with St. Louis, except I think I think St. Louis has the higher offensive caliber than
Yeah.
Seattle with Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou. But you have, to me, the interesting team. Well, two. One, Calgary, I think, is overachieving a bit, just because I thought they were going to be one of the worst teams, but they're not. Because Calgary lost a lot in the offseason with Noah Hannafin and Elias Lindholm,
Yeah.
but they're right there in the hunt. We'll see how Calgary does. They're a very up and down team. I would say a little bit like Utah, but Utah, to me, I could see them making the playoffs out of all those four teams, Sam, in the fact that I think they have a very good young core. You have Logan Cooley, Clayton Keller, Dylan Gunther. That's a very good young forward group. You have a good defense in Sergachev,
Yep.
John Marino, and you have good goaltending, I would say, tandem in both Connor Ingram and Karol Vamilka. So if I look at those four teams right there, I'd pick Utah to probably make the playoffs. Wouldn't you agree, Sam?
Yeah, I think Utah is pretty solid. They're a good team. They're a young team. They've got a lot. You want to talk about a team that got exponentially better this offseason? It was probably Utah. Uh, so I want to see them make the playoffs. I think that roster's earned it.
Oh, I think so too. Um, but like I mean, Calgary. I just think they're a bit. I do think they're a bit overachieving. I mean, you have a star player, and I think Jonathan Huberdeau, but after that, I just think you don't really have anybody after that. I mean, but even though with Huberdeau, he only has 25 points in 34 games. I mean, you have Kadri. It's just,
Hey, well, look,
mm,
Huberdeau's having a better season than he did last year.
yeah, he is. And I would say they do have a good goalie in Dustin Wolf. So I say a pretty good goalie. So I think you probably could say their goalie has kind of helped them stay out from the basement of the Western Conference Division. And then Sam, you have Dallas and Vancouver. Sam, Dallas, I'm a little bit shocked that they're in a second wild card position just because I still think they are a very good team. I'm going to look at Dallas's roster here, but wouldn't you say that they should be a top 3 team in the Central?
Yes, Dallas, they should be, but they've been falling off. So if they continue to do so, then they're going to slip out. But right now, the reality is Minnesota's having a great season, and I think that's what happened right now. Is you have Minnesota having a really good year, and they pushed Dallas out. It helps when Kirill Kaprizov is a top point scorer in the league. He's one of the guys that's been bouncing around with Natchez, McKinnon, Draisaitl, and a couple others for first, and uh, and that's why you have Dallas sitting where they're sitting right now. It's because Colorado, Winnipeg, and Minnesota are all having very good years, and Dallas has been slipping a little.
Yeah, they have. They've kind of been a little bit underachieving. But I still think they do make the playoffs, though. And obviously, Vancouver, they have their locker room issues with Miller and Pedersen. We'll see how that goes. I do think most of the teams that we see are in playoff spots, Sam. I do think pretty much all of them do make the playoffs by season's end. I do. I just can't see any big surprises. LA's doing good in the Pacific to round out the top 3. You have LA, Edmonton, Vegas.
Yeah.
Edmonton, obviously, no surprise there with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl.
Yep.
Vegas, they're doing great.
Yeah. I mean, Vegas is going to be number one in that division. I think most likely, just because they built up a lead. So if they keep that up, they'll be fine. But if Edmonton goes on a sneaky run, they could surpass them. That also wouldn't shock me. I don't think Vegas is as good as they were last year. I think they're having a good year, but I don't expect them to be the team that comes out of it from the Western Conference.
No, I don't either.
I actually think it's going to be either Winnipeg or Minnesota out of the West.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that too. Now, what's funny is I think well, no, never mind. But that is kind of the top three in the Pacific, and then top three have Colorado, Minnesota, and the Jets at 51, 46, and 42 points.
Yep.
And
And
honestly, I
Winnipeg
mean,
leads the league too, if anyone's curious.
yes, they do. They are playing remarkable. Sam, I'm not
Yeah.
surprised with Winnipeg. I've always thought they're a very good team.
Yep.
And I will admit, one team that does surprise me that's in this top three is Minnesota. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they have some good players from Foligno, from Kirill
Boldy,
Kaprizov, Boldy, Marc-Andre Fleury in goal.
Brock
I mean,
Faber
Brock
on the back
Faber.
end.
Yeah, they have a very good roster. This is a team that should be playing good hockey. 100% should be playing good hockey, and they are playing good hockey. And there's a reason they're only 5 points back of the Jets, is because they are playing really good hockey. And when you have a player like Kirill the Thrill Kaprizov, you're gonna make some fun games. I mean, I still think a series between Minnesota and Carolina would be fun.
Oh yeah, I think it would too. It'd be very fun. But that's kind of it for the Central Conference, our take. And now we're going to head out to the East. But before we do, let's get to a couple of our sponsors. It's the most wonderful time of the year for getting in on all the hoops, football, and hockey action at DraftKings Sportsbook. In the season of giving, we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, and pro hockey too, almost 24/7. And here's a gift for all new customers: bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Blue Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball. One of the things I like about watching hockey is the physical play we get to see, which is why Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes it easy to see your favorite team, concerts, or shows. One of the upcoming games I am looking forward to is a Canes versus Capitals game in January. And yes, that is my co-host Sam, if you heard him. They have a few super deals that are under $100 in lower level seating. That's why one of my favorite features is the super deal. Remember, you can also get to view from your seat in the app before you apply. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Well, Sam, it's not game time yet, but we will be going through the Eastern Conference. Okay, yes, I know you're very happy about your Baby Yoda doll.
Gotta have some fun, Sam. Gotta have some fun.
Yes, well, you kind of do need to have some fun. especially when not much is happening in the NHL. But that's why we are reviewing the standings. So, Sam, Eastern Conference. Uh, it took us a bit of time to go through the Western Conference. So let's go through this. I would say probably just a little bit quicker. But obviously, the teams I would say are probably the bottom dwellers are three teams, and that's Montreal, Detroit, and Buffalo.
Yes. I mean, there's not much to say about them other than, well, honestly, I think Detroit's a surprise. I expected them to be better.
I did too.
This year, I expected Buffalo to be better. Montreal's at about where I thought they'd be. Um,
They're a little bit better
but
than I thought they would be, to be
but the
honest. Just a
absolute
little bit.
shock is between, there's so little difference in my mind, like ability between the ninth seed and the second wild card spot. They're all within a 4 games of each other, 8 points. They are 8 points apart, which is, I mean, it's honestly insane.
It is, but I would say starting from Montreal to Buffalo, those are kind of the basement teams, just because I
They
can't
are.
see them going on a run. I just can't.
They no, I mean maybe Detroit, maybe Detroit. Of the three, I think Detroit has the best chance to do that. Um, but like you said, I don't expect any of them to make the playoffs. But I think it's important to note that even going down to Buffalo, that's only a 10 point difference, which is still just bizarre to me.
Yes, there's a lot more parity, I would say, in the Eastern Conference compared to the Western Conference in terms of how close everybody is.
Mm-hmm.
So now we get from like the Islanders, and I would say to the Penguins, in the
Yeah,
fact that those are the teams that are in shouting distance of the playoffs. Islanders, do I think they make the playoffs? Honestly, I don't think they do. I just don't.
I don't think they do either, especially when you look at what's in front of them. I think the Rangers are better than the Islanders. The Flyers are better than the Islanders. Pittsburgh's better than the Islanders. The only team that's kind of contending right now that might not be as good as the Islanders is Columbus, who is having a excellent season.
Yes,
And
they
if
are.
I were to guess, there's a reason they're having an excellent season. Is this team's playing for the Gaudreau family?
Yes, and the thing with Columbus, there's no pressure
No,
on them. There
no.
really isn't.
There's no pressure, and they're playing for the memory of one of their leader on that was on this franchise, and that was Johnny Gaudreau. And all our thoughts and prayers with that family. We're just coming through the holidays. It's not easy to get through when it's your first holiday without someone like that. So thoughts and prayers, as always, to the Gaudreau family.
Yes, definitely. And obviously, Sam, kind of like what we said about Nashville. I mean, I would say the Rangers have a good roster, but they've
Yeah.
just fallen off a cliff, kind of.
A lot of people are saying it's time to fire Laviolette, and I'll tell you right now, Laviolette's not the problem.
No, he's not. I think it's Chris Drury, and I think Rangers fans know that too.
I would hope so. If you think it's Laviolette, then I have a Stanley Cup to show you. Because
Yeah, exactly.
Laviolette's a heck of a coach and he knows what he's doing. But even he can only do so much when you have a GM that just sent a shockwave through the roster, traded away your captain. Look, we aren't Trouba fans here. I think he's a POS, and I think he's one of the dirtiest players to play in the National Hockey League. But you don't treat your captain like that. And they did, and that demoralizes some players. That also makes it difficult for you to go get players to join your team because they're going to be scared. And also why Shesterkin signed the full no movement clause, period. End of sentence. Can't be moved in any sort of way. So, yeah, the Rangers are where they are. We all love it because they are 10 points out of a playoff. They are 10 points out
And
of
we're
a
Canes fans because
divisional
that's
spot.
that's the big thing.
Yeah, the Rangers, I think, I honestly do believe at this point, I think they missed the playoffs. I think Ottawa and Tampa are playing too good. Washington and New Jersey are 1 and 2 in our division. We hold up the third. I don't think they catch either. I don't think they catch any of us. Like, even if Carolina continues to play mediocre hockey, I think we've built up too big of a lead in the division. We're 10 points ahead of the Rangers, 9 from Philly, 9 from Columbus, and then 6 from Pittsburgh. Maybe the Penguins catch us, and even if so, we'd still be the number one wild card team. I still don't see Pittsburgh catching us. Maybe Pittsburgh catches Ottawa.
Yeah,
if
I want to
Ottawa
talk
falters,
about
but
I wanted to talk about Pittsburgh because they're an interesting team too. I would say they're just a little bit like Columbus, but not totally because they do have still good players in
they have Sidney
Crosby and
Crosby.
Malkin.
Yeah.
But there's no pressure on this team making the playoffs.
Well, I think it depends
I
on who
don't
you
think
talk to.
I don't
I
think there's a lot.
I think it depends on who you talk to. I think if you
Eh,
talk to Kyle Dubas, they expect to make the playoffs. And I think Pittsburgh can make the playoffs. I do. I
the
think they could
players
contending.
maybe, but I would say the public perception of the Penguins
Yeah.
is they might be playing like a playoff team, but do they make the playoffs is the question.
I think they can. I mean, again, if how do they make it? They have two paths to the playoffs. We play Pittsburgh. I think one or two more times. They need to beat us both, or one. They need to beat us anytime they play us. Um, they need to beat the Senators when they play the Senators. But their path to the playoffs is the second wild card spot, or Carolina falters and they take over the third divisional spot. Because I don't expect Tampa to fall out of that wild card one. Maybe they
No,
pull
I
ahead of
don't either.
Boston. It's either going to be Boston or Tampa in that spot. Maybe Carolina if we falter. But I think the three teams that are going to that will be in that wild card spot will be either Tampa, Boston, or Carolina. The real spot that's open is that second wild card, and that's a contention between the Rangers, the Flyers, the Jackets, the Penguins, and the Senators. And I really, truly only believe that the two teams that have the best chance to get that are Pittsburgh and Ottawa. Um,
I do too.
I just don't think the Rangers can do it this year.
No,
And
but
they have, and
Ottawa
I,
they've been playing good, and I projected them
yeah,
to be in the playoffs.
you did project them to be in the playoffs. Their last 10, they're 8-2-0. They shut us out in one of those games. They're playing fantastic. I look, I'd rather see Pittsburgh in only because the respect I have for Crosby is just out of this world.
I'd
He's
rather see
the greatest
Ottawa in.
player.
I they I think Ottawa they're due for one more
No,
than
I mean,
Pittsburgh.
it would be great for the Senators. I just hate seeing a playoffs without Sidney Crosby. Just doesn't feel right.
I'm fine with that. I just am, in my opinion.
I'd rather the Penguins than the Caps, who are a
Yeah, I
surprise,
would
by
too.
the way. Who
Yeah,
are a
so
surprise.
Capitals, they're playing amazing.
Yeah, they're second in the division. They beat us at home. We're 1-1, by the way, against the Caps. We won one. They won one. I mean, the Caps are just a heck of a hockey team right now. They're 5 points in front of Carolina. They are 3 games in hand against the Devils. So, I mean, realistically, the Caps could win this division. It would actually surprise me. I still believe they will falter. I don't expect them to win the division.
Yeah, well, it's just right now with the way the standings are constructed, Sam, it seems like the battle to win the Metro is really between Washington and New Jersey. I just can't see Carolina.
Not unless Carolina figures it out or the Hurricanes make a trade for a need, which would be a number 2 center and a goaltender, which I also don't expect them to do.
No, But we'll talk about Carolina.
We'll talk about the Hurricanes last. I'm sure is probably your plan, but
yes.
Go ahead. I don't even know where we're at now.
We're just mainly at the top 3 in the Atlantic. Yeah, Boston, Toronto, Florida. I know Boston is doing very good right now. They're 7-2-1, but I still think they can falter.
Yeah, I do too. Again, like I said, when you talk about the teams that will be wild card 1, it will be Tampa, Boston, or Carolina. I think the farthest Boston falls is to wild card 1. I mean, could Ottawa pull ahead of Boston?
I think they could. Yeah.
Maybe. That would be an interesting turn of events. But if you notice, Sam, the Atlantic team has 5 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, because, I think that is, to me, kind of expected in the fact that I just think the Atlantic has better teams than the Metro do. That's just me, though. Do you agree or no?
Yeah, I agree. And which is crazy because the Metro has been the best team in the sport. Has been the best team in the NHL or the best division in the NHL for so long. It's crazy. But the Atlantic's the best division in hockey right now. I think all of those teams, maybe except Buffalo and Montreal, are teams that I think are playoff teams, and that includes Detroit. I really think they have a great roster who are struggling this year. I don't think this was the year Yzerman expected to have. Um, there are just so many good teams. Even the bottom dwellers like Montreal, they're not a pushover. They're going to score some goals. They're going to play some good games. And when you look at their head coach and Marty St. Louis, I love the Atlantic Division right now. They're a fun division to watch. All of
They
those
are.
teams are fun. Florida, Tampa, Boston, Ottawa, uh,
Toronto.
Toronto. Yeah, they're fun. It's a great, 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 great team, and I love every part of it.
Yeah, I do too. It's definitely very competitive, but that's pretty much it for us looking at the standings, Sam. Because let's go ahead and talk about that disappointing loss, Sam. And uh, I'm, I would say I'm starting to try and get into the habit and just say a couple of words on Twitter/X after games. But I definitely did it against Nashville, and to me, this was a game where I was just really frustrated just because you won at Madison Square Garden. And even though Nashville is a team better than their record, you could say the same thing for the Rangers. So it it was frustrating, but I mean, obviously you have Nashville scoring the first two goal, or actually the first four goals. And that's Stamkos, Mark Gasol, O'Reilly, Jankowski, and obviously Dustin Tokarski. He's he played for the Canes in this game, but I would argue, even though I thought he made very, very good saves, very good. There were a couple goals where I was like, probably could have had that.
Yeah, I agree.
The first goal, especially, uh, I would say the Stamkos goal. I mean, I know he got probably because it was his glove that got dislodged from his hand.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a puck coming in between the goalpost and his body. He gotta stop that.
Yeah, it's just I don't know when you get your glove knocked off. It's look, we did not lose
But
this game because
it's
of Tokarski.
no. I agree
that,
with I
that
agree
team,
with you there.
that
I
team
do.
played like trash. Tokarski, I agreed with Adam on this. Tokarski balled out that game. He was freaking fantastic. He's why we were even in this game. Tokarski played lights out hockey. The goals Nashville scored, they earned that crap. The only one that, and I would agree, the only one that was kind of lucky was Stamkos.
Yes. And now the Marchessault goal, that's on the Hurricanes. The O'Reilly goal, which was that power play goal that Nashville had, that was a total meltdown by our penalty kill. And he's all alone. And on Tokarski, of course, he's going to score. So I agree with you. Our team was playing so bad in front of him through the first, well, what would you say, 25, 30 minutes? Or, sorry, 45, 50 minutes?
Hmm, yeah.
because because when it got to like what the 13-minute mark in the third period, the Kings were like, "Oh, that's right, we have a game to play."
Yeah, because they kind of took over and they tried, and I'll give it to him. Look, George Stahl willed this team onto his back to give them an opportunity to compete, and it just Saros is just too good, and Nashville is too good, and you, and most nights when you go down 4-0, you're not gonna come back and win.
Not
And
against a goalie like Saros.
no, Saros, Sorokin, Shostarkin, Vasilevsky, Allmark, Swayman, you're just not. Those are great goaltenders, and you go down 4-0, unless it's like Buffalo, you probably don't have a chance to come back uh, and winning that game. And what I wanted to see at the end was the compete, was that ability to go and do it, to try. And I think we saw an attempt and saw a try and a fight hard. But the worst play of the game for me, and it's going to hurt you, Sam, and I about yelled at my TV, was it was the empty net, and Slavin took a shot from the point, and I just about screamed at my TV. Like, why in God's name, one, is Jacob Slavin out on the ice when we're trying to score a goal? And two, why would you take the shot from there?
I
Is it
agree
at
with the shot. I completely agree. To be honest, I actually even before the shot, I didn't think Slavin had that great of a game. I
I'm
didn't.
curious. So Adam Gold said at times Burns has been better defensively than Slavin this season. Maybe I guess I haven't noticed it that much, but I've had a pretty negative view on Burns all season. So maybe you love Slavin, so you probably pay attention to his game a heck of a lot more than I do. So
I do agree. I think there have been moments where Slavin has struggled a little bit defensively, and honestly, I agree. Like if you're an offensive defenseman, your number one responsibility is to get pucks out of the zone because you're a defenseman. No
yeah,
matter
no,
what
I
your
agree.
age, no matter how good your offensive capability is, it's just with Burns, he obviously does not have the skating ability. And because of that, I think that's where Slavin shines the most. Because Slavin is a lot better skater than Brent Burns. And this is another thing, too. And Sam, I know we're kind of pushing up on the time for this episode. So I think we should probably have a separate episode, especially if the Hurricanes have another mediocre game like this, where we just kind of assess kind of like the problems that we're seeing with this team. But
Yeah.
I
Well,
would say
now I'm
one of
scared.
them.
I'm getting ready to go to a game down against the Florida Panthers, and if this is the team that shows up, it's going to be a long night.
Oh yeah, it is. But I would say probably one of the problems, and again, I'm not attacking Burns, I'm not attacking Orlov or anything, but I just think the blue line really needs and I think we'll get it with Nikishkin, but they need some youth on that blue line, I would think. And I'm not saying youth equals great skating ability, but they need some good youth on that blue line that can skate very, very well and be that type of maybe Makar type of player.
Well, that's what you're bringing Nikishin in for, right?
Exactly.
So look, I've been saying this for a while, and this is not a knock on Brent Burns. I have criticized the absolute snot out of Brent Burns this season. Brent Burns is a Hall of Fame defenseman. He is a great player. Sam, we grew up with this team being trash, and nobody like Brent Burns ever would want to come here. Burns wanted to come to Carolina. Orlov wanted to come to Carolina. When I say that, I just think Orlov's he's older. He's 40. The fact that he's just not
Burns.
yeah, Burns. The fact that Burns is just, but I'm talking like players want to come here. Roslovic came here, Orlov came here. Like these guys, these players that are free agents that are on the higher end of the spectrum wanted to come to Carolina. It's Burns had a great, when you took that contract on, you're probably getting at least 2 good years of Burns. That last year is 50-50. We're getting the other end of the 50-50. I don't think he's been what you want this year. And I would even argue that might be why Slavin has not been as good defensively this year, is it's hard when you have Slavin, who in my mind isn't the fastest blue liner we have. He's
No, I
fast,
would
but
say
he's not the
Chatfield.
fastest.
Chatfield's our fastest blue liner, I would say.
Yeah, I think Chatfield and Walker are pretty fast defensemen. But Burns is
And
just
and Ghost.
slow. Yeah, but Burns is slow and older. He doesn't use the shot anymore. It's just his value isn't there. So you're right. We need an injection of youth on the blue line, and I think we're on the cusp of that. I think we're going to see that in Morrow, who I think is ready to play in the National Hockey League. I think he's proving that in Chicago. You have Nikishin, who's already proved he is ready to play at the National Hockey League, what he's been playing over in the KHL. You're about to get an injection of youth into this blue line. You have Walker, who I think is maybe 30 or just under.
He's 30.
Gostisbehere, I think, is just over 30. Slavin, who is not 30 yet, I think he's right around it, but
He's
not quite
31.
there. Oh, he is 31. I thought he was like 29. All right, so
No,
you've got
30,
Slavin.
31, yeah.
So we have all these defensemen who are in their prime, right? Chatfield is not 30 yet. He's close, but he's not. Orlov, I actually don't know how old Orlov is, but I think he's
33.
30. I thought he was older. So you're about to replace 33-year-old Orlov and 40-year-old Burns with a 20-year-olds and Morrow and Nikishin. I think Nikishin's like what,
Young
24, 25.
20s specifically.
Well, isn't Nikishin a little older?
He's
23,
24.
24?
Yeah,
Okay.
but he's still on the young side of the 20
So
age
you're
mark.
about to have your franchise defenseman. Sorry to all the Slavin lovers. It will be Nikishin. Sorry, Sam. Nikishin will be the franchise blue liner for this team.
If he can be a Kale McCarr, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, Brendan Morrow, who I think is going to be the next Yoni Pitkinen, Joe Corvo hybrid kind of a player. Good offensive guy, a little bit of defensiveness ability, but guy who can shoot. I bet his comparable would be a higher skilled Joe Corvo kind of a player.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm gathering from him. Solid. I mean, you want that, right? You want a guy who can score. So you're in a position where I think this roster is ready for an injection of youth because you have some older players on the team now. You just do.
Well,
And
again, I say blue line just because when it comes to the forward group, we do have quite many still young guys.
And I also think we have some young forwards that are going to be playing. Bradley Nadeau. You've got Jackson Blake this year, Felix Ungerstorm. Even if you want to look at Ryan Suzuki coming in as well at some point, you're in a solid position, especially if this team doesn't bring back like Jost or something like that next year. Wouldn't shock me to see Suzuki play as a fourth line center for this team. Which I think if he's signed here, he will. He will not re-sign in Carolina if he's not playing in the National Hockey League, because he'll go somewhere and play, because he's proving himself this year in Chicago to get an NHL contract and play. And he will play in the NHL next year. It's just whether or not it's with the Hurricanes. But I think Carolina is doing what you and I said they would do this year. We said they'd be wild card one or the third Metro team, and so far I think we've been the most accurate of any of the Hurricanes podcasts when talking about Carolina's ability.
It's just frustrating because they had that hot start, and because
Yes.
of that, I've always thought in this skid they can get back to that, but I wonder if that really was truly the Hurricanes. So that's my take on the whole Nashville game, but we're kind of going up on the time here, Sam. We usually try to shoot these for 30 to 45 minutes, but sometimes for a little bit over, that's fine, obviously. But Sam, let's see how they do against the New Jersey, both at home and away. And I believe we closed out the month against Columbus. So
Yeah,
we'll see
what
how
happens.
we'll see what happens. We will see you guys Monday.